Hi geographers, welcome to your CAT help video for this week. We'll just go through questions that you've got. First question, 4 marker on processes taking place at conservative plate boundaries. Hopefully you're fairly familiar with how to answer 4-mark questions by now. Make sure you say 4 specific things and make sure that you focus on conservative plate boundaries. Don't accidentally write about them. Second question is using these 2 maps here. It says that figure 9a shows data related to the eruption of Kilauea volcano in Hawaii in May 2018, and figure 9b shows a satellite image of the same eruption. Using figure 9a and 9b, analyze the data shown. So this is an analysis question. This is just testing your ability to spot trends, patterns, anomalies and so on. So I would suggest that you look at each of these maps in turn, so look at them individually and then perhaps look for any connections or similarities between them. You probably haven't done much before in terms of analysing information from maps. You'll be familiar with analysing graphs and tables of information. When it comes to analysing information from a map like this, think about the bits of information that you can use to help you manipulate data. Remember that manipulating data is a really fundamental skill in these 6-mark questions. Think about the fact that you've got 2 different flows of lava. You've got the lighter pink colour, which is what happened between the 3rd and the 5th of May. And then you've got the darker red colour, which is the additional lava that flowed on the 23rd, 24th of May. And the purple colour are notable past lava flows. You've got a scale bar down here which would be very useful in terms of comparing the relative sizes and directions of those different lava flows. Turning your attention to figure 9b, you've got a slightly larger scale map looking at the height of material that was ejected into the atmosphere. So the yellow, orange and blue colours represent the relative heights of that material from 0 up to 3 kilometres high in the atmosphere. Again, you've got a scale bar at the bottom and you've got a north arrow here. So again, that will help you to use some data with relation to the direction and the size, or rather the height of that material. Remember that you don't need to offer any explanations in this sort of question, so just focus on those 3 things: the trends, back it up with some evidence, and see if you can spot any anomalies. Third question is one that you won't have had much practice on before, which is a 9-mark question. These 9-mark questions only appear in the hazards topic and the global systems and governance topic. And you can think about them a little bit like a mini 20-marker. They are going to be evaluative in some way. They're going to be focused on a particular viewpoint or opinion and ask whether or not you agree with that statement or not. In this case, it's asking you how far you agree that the secondary impacts of volcanic eruptions present a greater long-term threat to people than primary impacts. So it's really asking you to weigh up the relative threat that primary and secondary impacts pose. It's probably worth in your answer starting by distinguishing between primary and secondary impacts. And just to be clear about this, primary impacts are things that are immediate or directly resulting from an eruption. Lava flows, gases that are released, ash and tephra, pyroclastic material, all of those things are primary impacts. Secondary impacts are indirect. They are the result of primary impacts. So things like lahars, tsunami, climate changes, all of those things would be knock-on effects. They would be indirect. And what you have to do is make a judgment either way about which of those you think has a greater long-term threat to people. That's really important to remember that we're talking about the long term here and we're thinking about the impacts. So make sure, as I've said down here, you focus on the impact of the hazard and not the causes of them or the responses to them. As I said before, make sure you present a viewpoint. You will either agree or disagree with this statement. You'll either strongly agree with it or partially agree with it, or vice versa, strongly or partially disagree with that statement. Again, there's no right answer to this, although very often you'll find maybe one of those arguments is more logical, more straightforward. So go with your gut and try and present a coherent viewpoint as to which one you think is the correct answer. Finally, make sure, please, that you support your points with evidence and examples. You don't need to give lengthy descriptions of case study events in these sorts of questions, but being able to support your points with reference to examples is really important. You're not going to get into kind of top half of the marks band if you don't support your points with evidence. Good luck.